The Samurai Turned Pretty just dropped episode 8, and it seems like the ending of this episode gave us the answer that we were all looking for when it comes to who Belly might end up with. Following Conrad telling Belly how he felt about her at the end of the previous episode, this one saw the after effects of it and the fact that Belly had this sense of guilt within her about marrying Jeremiah whilst holding on to that love for his brother as a secret. Lives were destroyed in this episode, relationships were shattered, but even amongst the doom and gloom, there was one glimmering piece of hope for the two characters that I kinda feel like deserve a happy ending in the show. So let's not wait any longer. Here is the Samurai Turned Pretty Season 3 Episode 8, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah's love triangle. The love triangle got the main focus in this episode because it was the wedding that all of us had been waiting for. Jeremiah had noticed that Conrad was making himself distant in the sense that he bailed out of the bachelor party early. He didn't go on the boat trip, and he also didn't want to go and get ice cream with both himself and Belly. This only added to Jeremiah being suspicious of his brother and the fact that he felt like he still had feelings for his wife-to-be, especially with him noticing the way that Conrad had been looking at her. If I'm being honest, Jeremiah didn't really feature much in the episode until the second half. The first half was mainly about Belly and Conrad having conflicting views on the fact that Conrad admitted how he felt. Even though we knew that Belly felt the same for Conrad, she didn't want to hurt Jeremiah and was struggling with the fact that she had this weight on her shoulders a couple of days before the wedding. However, inside, Belly quite openly said that she felt the most alive that she ever had because it was Conrad who was telling her exactly what she wanted to hear. But it was just at the wrong time because the time had passed for them. During the couple's speech, which occurred after the rehearsal for the wedding, Jeremiah referred to his brother as loyal and that he respected that. He also said that they'd be brothers right until the very end. However, the end of this episode showed that that wasn't going to be the case in the slightest. On the morning of the wedding day, Belly woke up and Jeremiah was nowhere to be seen. This was because before they went to bed, she told Jeremiah that Conrad confessed his love to her, and when he woke up, he was questioning if he wanted to get married to her or not, and if Conrad would always be this presence that would dominate their relationship. When Conrad found Jeremiah, Jeremiah told him that they were no longer brothers, that he was dead to him, and that he wanted him to stay far away from him and Belly. So it showed that Jeremiah still wanted to marry her, but he was skeptical about the whole situation. This even led to Jeremiah hitting Conrad twice and us seeing that the brotherly bond had disintegrated completely. There was a twist in the tale too, because before Susanna died, she wrote notes to Belly, Jeremiah, and Conrad, which were to be given to them on their wedding days. And mistakenly, Conrad's note was placed in Jeremiah's envelope, and as Jeremiah read it, it said how the only person that Susanna had seen Conrad truly be in love with throughout their life was Belly. So that must have felt like a knife was being twisted even more for Jeremiah. His own mother, the person that he said that he missed most when he did the speech, was the person that never even saw an ounce of love that was between both him and Belly. With Jeremiah going back to the room, he saw that Conrad had left Susanna's wedding ring on the table and said that Belly should have it, which solved the terrible ring situation that Belly had, but it also showed that Conrad was stepping in to save the day again when he didn't truly need to. Whilst this was taking place, Conrad went to see Belly one final time because he was planning on leaving and staying far away from them because he didn't want to interfere anymore. He apologized for messing things up and ruining the wedding, but the line that hit the hardest was when he said, "Whatever happens, it was worth it to me," showing that losing his brother was worth admitting his feelings for her because at least she knew how he truly felt. He was never going to be able to move on or be his true self if he didn't tell her, which is why he was having therapy at the start. So him doing it needed to happen no matter what the consequences. With him leaving, Jeremiah returned back, and this again just felt like the immature Jeremiah that we've seen throughout the entirety of the show. He knew that there was an ounce of love in Belly for Conrad, and it was never going to go away. But when he walked into the room, he was still willing to go through with it. We know that he didn't want to live in his brother's shadows like he did in every other aspect of his life, but he was still willing to do so here, and Belly even saw that. It was only when he asked Belly if she loved Conrad, and she said that she always would, even if just a little bit, that he finally let her go. We also found out in this scene that Jeremiah knew about Christmas because there was a neighbor that saw Conrad at the house in Cousins, and they then told Jeremiah and his father about it. This was what actually spurred him on to have the argument just before Jeremiah went on spring break where he slept with Lacey. He was upset at the fact that Billy never told him, and like he said, he knew that nothing happened, but it felt like it was a sense of emotional cheating because even though they weren't physically intimate, it was the time where she fell in love with Conrad, which in his eyes was a lot worse. From there, Jeremiah walked away. Billy was in tears and the wedding was called off. I think we all knew that the both of them were never going to get married, or at least if they did, it wouldn't have lasted because there wasn't that electricity that was there like we see with Billy and Conrad. We even saw that Billy decided to go to the airport at the end and go on her trip to Paris with college, so it would get her out of the country, the vicinity of the brothers, and she'd be able to clear her head and almost come back as a new person. However, whilst she was waiting for her plane and was about to board it, who did she see waiting for his flight? The man, Conrad himself. The episode actually concluded as she spotted him, but I think she's definitely going to go over to him. She might not even get on that plane to Paris anymore, and instead she might end up going back with Conrad. Conrad is always there for Billy. We've seen it from day one, and this was almost the universe showing her what she wanted deep down inside. So the next episode is probably going to follow her going back with him, or if she doesn't, it'll see her in Paris and the both of them may be connecting when she gets back. Steven and Taylor. Now, this was probably the purest arc in the episode, and it was the one sense of joy and happiness in the 1 hour runtime. I always thought that these two would end up back together, and after seeing that Steven and Denise had no chemistry whatsoever, there was tension between Steven and Taylor at the table. In Billy and Jeremiah's speech, Billy said how Taylor always put others ahead of her, and that she was always there for those that needed it. We've seen that all throughout this season with how she's basically been the mother when it comes to her and Lucinda, and also with her being there for Billy when she's needed her. However, when it came to all of the drama with the wedding, Taylor admitted how she truly felt, and she questioned if Billy should have been getting married to Jeremiah when she didn't know if he was actually the one for her. This actually made Billy lash out at Taylor, and she backtracked on what she said about her during the speech. As Billy was going in on her, Steven stepped into the room and told her to stop. This to me showed that he was back on being on the side of Taylor and that there was potentially going to be a romance that blossomed between them. Taylor believed what Billy said, which was sad to see, and she looked utterly heartbroken when she was standing at the table all on her own. It was only once she found out that Steven and Denise had no chemistry whatsoever that there was a slight smile on her face. As I said, there was tension between the both of them, and you could tell that Steven realized that maybe he and Denise didn't work because he was held up on Taylor still. So I imagine we're gonna see these two getting back together in the next episode. Taylor deserves a bit of happiness, to be fair, especially after everything that she's been through this season. My review of the episode. This was the episode that we'd all been waiting for, and it definitely delivered. We all wanted to know if Billy was going to go through with the wedding, and seeing it unfold in the way that it did, it landed exactly how it needed to. The performances from Jeremiah and Conrad were probably the strongest that they've had in the entirety of the season, and the emotion on Jeremiah's face was something that was definitely felt through the screen. I would say that even though I am Team Conrad, which I've said all season, there was a part that frustrated me about him with this episode. It was as if he just didn't care, which I didn't quite respect. Especially when he said, "I'm done pretending with you now," as if he knew that Billy felt the same when she'd never said anything to him. So I thought that was just a little odd. Before Billy told Jeremiah that she still loved Conrad, I thought it was going to be left on a cliffhanger and that we'd have to wait until next week, so I'm glad that they didn't leave us waiting. Although they have left us waiting to see if she's going to go to Paris or if she's going to go off with Conrad. One thing that I did like in this episode was how Laurel was there for Conrad when he needed her. It was almost like a reverse of the advice that was given when he got her to go to the bridal shower, so I thought that was a nice touch. When it comes to Billy, I would just say that I do find her so difficult to like. She's had both of the brothers, and I don't know why she didn't just lean into her true feelings about how she felt. Honestly, I never thought I'd leave this show feeling bad for Jeremiah, but I do. He openly said how Billy had never looked at him the way that she looked when he said Conrad's name, which must hurt so much. So that's a twist for my viewing experience at least. There's only a few episodes left of the show, and I'm intrigued to see if it's going to end up with Billy being alone, Billy being with Conrad, and maybe who Jeremiah might just end up with. I'm hoping that the final episode might be set in the future, and we'll see exactly how it will all unfold. So, there you have it, The Summer I Turned Pretty Season 3 Episode 8 Ending Explained.